Well, thank you very much, and welcome once again to Where Are They Now? And joining us as we have previewed for the last couple of hours, Christopher Hunt, director of the Eddie Sutton documentary. And Chris, you and I have been talking back and forth the last couple of days. We'll start off with the most obvious. We're not going to bury the lead, okay? We're going to come up with the most obvious question here that fans and listeners want to know. When can we expect that the Eddie Sutton documentary, which is done, will be out there for public consumption?
So first off, Tom, thanks for having me on. This is amazing. I really, really appreciate it. This film has been, quite the process, and something that has been very educational, as you can imagine. Like you just said, the film is completed. We've completed it, really kind of nailed it down a few months ago, and was able to start kind of privately showing it to Eddie and his family first. We can talk about that, and then been able to start getting it to some cast and crew, and just starting to make its way. We're currently in process of getting the film distributed, and so it's pretty nuanced, I got to say. But the goal is really, as you know, and as we've talked about before, really trying to get the largest possible audience to be able to see the movie and experience Eddie's story. From the word go, we've always thought that was really, really important. And after getting through the process was a huge accomplishment. I feel really great about it. And the process of making the movie, I think everybody involved, is really, truly happy with the film. And I believe audiences will be able to connect with Eddie and his story. But right now, it's definitely a hard time, getting it out in the world. It can be frustrating. It just seems like it takes forever. But that's kind of how it goes with independent filmmaking. So, we want it to be out in the world just as bad as, Oklahoma State fans want it to be out there, but we're being very strategic with it, who gets to see it. I think we have a great plan. I'm certainly happy with that plan. I fully expect it to be out in 2020. The sooner the better. I think that it'll be a really strong push here over the next couple of months, specifically with everything surrounding, the Final Four. College basketball will be taking center stage. All of that stuff is really going to help us whenever we go in and walk into, the offices at ESPN or HBO or Showtime, Netflix, whatever the case may be, for us to have their attention, understand the importance of Eddie's story. And like I said, just trying to get this on a platform where not only people in Oklahoma can watch the movie, but people all across the country can watch the movie. That is the goal, because, as you know, Tom, this story is one that needs to be told. And I think it's one that, after we got into it, it's one that I don't believe you have to be a college basketball fan necessarily to connect with this film. I think it's got, I hope it has, and I believe it does, have mass appeal. And I really have high hopes for it as far as, getting it out there in the world. But I guess that's kind of a long answer to say it's in process. We're doing all those things right now. It's part of the process that I'm not in control of.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel really good about it. We've got great people working on it, and I can guarantee that it'll be out here in 2020, and I would imagine probably realistically late spring, early summer. That's probably where I think it will land.
I don't have a whole lot of points of reference when it comes to film festivals and all, but there is a process. Is there not, that you have to kind of go through to maybe help recoup? You got to have to recoup expenses. We live in a day and age where nothing's charity, right? This doesn't happen on a charity basis, even though it was a passion of yours. But take me through the process of a film festival and what you have to do to get it out there.
So there are kind of two methods of getting the movie out there. One is going the film festival route and having it seen by industry. The other is bypassing film festivals and taking it straight to the industry. We're kind of doing both. It's funny. Film festivals are really interesting because they're so subjective, and you never know kind of what type of film they want to have and if it fits in their lineup and all this. And so we kind of, we went up against the big boys. We submitted it to Sundance, and I'll be honest, I didn't have like high hopes because those films, you're going up against multi-million dollar pictures that are studio films, and the chances of our I guess if you want to call it smaller film getting in were pretty slight. I was just trying to be very realistic about it. And they don't take a lot of biopics. And so, but we thought, hey, if we get in, it's going to expedite this process a lot. So we did it. We felt like we owed it to ourselves. And so we submitted it to Sundance, and unfortunately it didn't get in. But the cool thing about it was their one of the judges, I guess you call it a judge, screener, actually emailed us back and told us how wonderful the movie was. And it was about the greatest letdown you could probably have, if you know what I mean. And really gave us a lot of confidence that we've made a good movie. Cause that just never happens. Someone on a jury, telling you, sorry, the movie's great, it just doesn't fit into the lineup. And so for us to get that email back was quite gratifying, honestly. I know that sounds kind of weird because you don't get in, but just to get that was great. It gave us a lot of confidence. And so the feeling that we've made a good film is there. And so now, since we didn't get in, we have, in the business, we have the proper people in place to take it directly to studios, and that's happening now. And so, so now it's just up to, finding, I'll say something like a guy like Fran Fraschilla, for instance. You tune into a Texas Tech game now and Sean's on the bench, or, an Oklahoma State game where Scott's on the bench. Inevitably, the camera points over to him, and Eddie's name comes up, and Fran will often go on a little rant about Eddie in the Hall of Fame, which is pretty great. And so we're, trying to gather those voices, the people that you've heard, to be advocates for the film, and kind of relay the importance of the movie. And because all those things help, right? It's just like any other business out there, it's like who you know, what, just as much as what you know. And so we're trying to expand those relationships, and really, get it into the right, so the right person sees this film and feels like it would be a good fit for their network. And that's the dream, man. That's the hope. That's the dream. We think will be a reality. The sooner the better. But I'll be honest. This has been a 4-year journey for myself. We're coming up on a 4-year journey, which just is kind of crazy. And it's something I live with every day. I feel that little bit of pressure, of being able to do this not only for all the people that worked on the movie, but for all of the OSU fans out there that want to see this film hit the big screen or hit Netflix or whatever the case may be. And so I feel it. I try not to let it just overwhelm me, but I definitely feel it. And because I'm an OSU guy too, and so I want to give back, and I wanted to do something. I was raised going to Stillwater, going to games with Eddie, and it's just been a huge part of my life. And the stars kind of aligned to be able to make this movie. I'm so honored to be able to do it, and I just want it to be the best it can possibly be. And from a story perspective, from a movie perspective, I'm really happy. yeah, I'm ready for everyone to see it. That's for sure.
Let's get into the X's and O's of this. You mentioned it's almost been a 4-year journey for you. You've already established the passion you have for Oklahoma State and Oklahoma State basketball and Eddie Sutton. You I guess you were just a youngster here at the time when that started to kind of develop. But take us through how many people you actually talked to, how you broke it down in segments, what were you trying to get done from start to finish? Why don't you tell us that?
Sure. So I knew whenever we started that Eddie certainly had a story, and honestly, after about the fourth time he was not selected for the Hall of Fame, I'm sure myself and along with a bunch of other Oklahoma State people, it just really riled me up, and so I'd made a couple other films beforehand, and I knew I wanted to do a sports documentary. I'd never done one before, and I knew I wanted to do one, and I was just, kind of thinking about, what to do, and obviously after that happened, I guess it was just on my mind. It just woke me up in the middle of the night, and I was like, of course, Eddie has a great story. This is, really crappy what's happening with the Hall of Fame, and I was like, let's do that. So I sat on it for a few days, and then presented it to a couple producers, and they were all aboard, and so we were kind of off. And long story short, I was able to make a couple connections, actually go and visit with Eddie and his son Steve. Got them on board, got Sean and Scott on board to do the film, and in those meetings we'd always talked about, hey, let's don't hold back. Let's talk about everything. We have to talk about everything, good and bad, because we want it to be the best movie it can possibly be. And so, but the idea really to start with was I was just thinking it was primarily Eddie, his story, and as I got into it and started talking with specifically, his family, Sean, Scott, Steve, the story really started taking shape and started taking me in a direction that I'll be honest, I didn't think it was going to go. And, but boy, I'm so happy it did, because after you see it, I feel like it really turned into this very beautiful father-son story. And, I just wasn't expecting that, but whenever it takes you there, you just kind of ride it and you go with it. And so that was something that was really, really great. Not only was there just this, all this basketball success and how Coach was as a person with his players, how he was as a leader, but also this relationship he had with his son. And so that was something that was quite satisfying and emotional. But really it was also about, going and talking with people who knew him best and people that could help tell his story. And we went all the way back. I mean, the movie starts in Buckland, Kansas, and ends today. So everyone from President Clinton to Bill Self to Dick Vitale to Andre Williams is in the movie. So it was a fascinating journey, man. And you just, as you're doing it, you just live it. And I guess now I don't know, I've been with it as long as some of his players played for him. It's just a strange relationship.
Let me ask you this, and certainly with the anniversary of the plane crash coming up on Monday, that's another reason I wanted to get you on. Just from my perspective, and we spent, golly, you and I and your camera people, we spent a lot of time here in Stillwater, and I have no idea because I haven't seen it, how much it made, how much it didn't make, but. That had to be a tough part of the video, did it not? I mean, it was tough to to actually answer your questions. I wonder how difficult it was for you to put that in.
So, I'll be honest. Editing it like you would, because I'm so close to the story, and I mean, I don't even know if you have to be that close to it. I mean, just editing it, it would really mess with me emotionally. It was hard. You hear your story, you hear Karen Hancock's story. You hear Andre talk. You hear Victor Williams talk. It's tough. It's very, very tough. But you just try to honor it as best you can. I mean, I thought Eddie was just magnificent in that time, and especially hearing what you guys had to say. It transcended coaching. It transcended, even just being an iconic figure. I mean, the dude really he shouldered something that I don't think. It's true. Not only a couple of other coaches have ever had to shoulder. I mean, you think about the Marshall plane crash or a few other events. I mean, obviously Oklahoma State's had 2 plane crashes, which is just ridiculous. But you think about a Hall of Fame and a Hall of Fame coach. I mean, for me, there's just not much more Hall of Fame than that. And just to handle it with grace and with class, dignity. He was just a stud, I mean, he was just kind of just did the best he could possibly do. And I'm sure he made some mistakes. I'm sure he would tell you he made some mistakes as well. But honestly, man, I don't know if anyone could have done a better job. And it just speaks to who he was who he is as a person, and who he was as a coach. And it was gut wrenching. I'll be honest, Tom. But as you know, the Cowboys rebounded, made it to a Final Four in 2004. And but it was really, really hard.
Hey, does it go in chronological order, and how long of a film is it, Chris?
Yeah, so the film is 93 minutes. It does somewhat go in chronological order. Yeah. I felt like it was kind of easiest to digest that way. But it goes in chronological order.
How difficult, with all the people you talk to, and the alternative is not good if you don't have enough to put it in, but I mean, to me, the challenge of all the people you talk to and all the angles you took and all the places you visited, difficult, I guess, is probably not the right word. What was the challenge like to get it all in 90 minutes?
Oh, man. The challenge was to keep the film focused, and really try to this is a human story more than it is a basketball story, and to keep it that way. I think Eddie's story in lots of ways transcends sports. We all know him because of his great success on the floor, and all of his accomplishments. But there's more to him than that. And so, but maintaining focus. It was one thing that was hard for me personally was to not fall in love with everything Oklahoma State. And I wanted for enough people that were not from here to help me and work on the project that didn't have Oklahoma State ties, and didn't necessarily know his story. I thought that perspective would be very, very valuable and would help keep me honest and not so biased. That was hard because I know little, I know I could probably get stuck in the minutia of the story, especially surrounding Stillwater, really easy. but that wouldn't serve the film. And so but honestly, that was kind of my big thing, was just making sure that people outside of Oklahoma could relate and get it. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was a challenge. And another huge challenge, Tom, was just, just hours and hours of archival footage. And it was a lot. I'll tell you, his time at Kentucky, he was there for 4 years, and they had a lot of footage.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. It was really great. And like breaking all that down and going through it was fantastically fun. But there's a lot there, and you guys were so sweet, allowing me to come over and get a bunch of stuff from the Oklahoma State archives. A lot of the stuff that you guys did for your coaches shows, the folks over at Channel 6 in Tulsa were incredibly awesome. And so the cool thing about it is that I think that there's a lot of footage there that I don't know if people have really ever seen.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And so I think that's going to be really fun for audiences. His time at Arkansas was kind of the same way, and you're starting to kind of go back a little bit there in time. But it's really, really cool to see. For me, it was really, really cool to see Eddie as a young man coaching, because, like you kind of mentioned, whenever I was, in Stillwater and at Oklahoma State, I kind of remember him as the grumpy, the face that he would make on the sideline, the grumpy grandfather type. He was such a vibrant, cool guy, so charismatic, that was pretty neat.
We try to make him sound like he wasn't grumpy on the air back in those days when you listened to us.
He's awesome.
Now, last thing before we wrap this up, and again, we talked about your passion, and I appreciate, you took me back to early days when you were listening as a youngster to Bob and myself. There weren't that many TV games, if you remember back in those days. It was all about radio. But tell me, I've had feedback from the Sutton family, okay, long story short, and various members of it, and they've all come back very positively, appreciate the forthrightness of the video, the fairness of the video. And you know what? If you're looking for a bottom line that you feel good about, that would have to put you over the top. I mean, whatever happens now as far as marketing and all that, that's down the line. But when you get that kind of feedback from the people who really mean the most, that's got to be great for you.
Well, it was. I mean, so there's a couple of things. Like, it was very, very important for me, for Eddie to see the movie. And I'll be very honest. I think, and Sean or Scott would tell you the same, Steve. We didn't know if that was going to be possible. There were so many hurdles to be able to even start production on the movie that, I just didn't know. And so for him to be able to actually get to see it was quite satisfying. Now, I would be nervous, or I'd be lying if I didn't tell you I was extremely nervous for him to see it, because you just never know how people are going to react to seeing themselves on screen and seeing their story. But I got to say, we got to see it in a very kind of private environment, and I looked at him a few times, and his eyes would just get really, really big, especially whenever Patsy would show up on screen. And it was just really, really rewarding. And you're right. I mean, honestly, that was worth it. I mean, everything else is kind of cherry on top. It was just really great to be able to give that guy a hug after this thing was over, and just share that moment, that very kind of raw moment, and it was incredible. I'll never forget it. I mean, there's so many things about this project that I'll never forget. I hope this isn't the mountaintop for my career, but if it is, it's a hell of a mountaintop. And it was amazing, and I was really happy to hear that they liked it, because you just never know. And but I think it served its purpose well, and yeah.
Well,
I'm proud of it.
We wanted to get you on, and the next time we hear from you, I want you to call me and say, hey, it's going to be on such and such and such and such, so get the message out, and we'll do that. But congratulations on a great effort. From what and I've yet to see it, but hopefully I will this weekend. But from what I hear, it was well worth your effort, and there was a lot of effort given. I know there was, and a lot of passion involved. So, Chris, give me a ring when you know something more concrete, and we'll get it out there for you.
Well, I certainly will, and I will just say also, just real quick, I've been kind of laying low on Twitter, but we do have a Twitter account. It's at Eddie Sutton Film. You can give us a follow there. I will keep us updated on that as much as I possibly can. I promise that I will give you a call as soon as I know anything. And if we have any screenings or anything like that, it will be out in the world. So I am not going to hesitate. That news will travel fast, I promise.
Hey, I appreciate you spending time with us, enlightening us on the documentary. I can't wait to see it, and I'll be in contact with you. But thanks for joining us again today.
All right, thanks, Tom.
All right, buddy. See ya.
Later.
Yeah. Christopher Hunt, the director of the Eddie Sutton documentary, and I think if there's anything you took away from our visit this afternoon, it's he was passionately involved in this thing, and still is. You could tell he's emotionally involved in it, and now he just wants everybody else to see what he put together.